I'm seceding from this occupation. I want you to come see my autonomous region within the occupation. So this is FOB Reagan, Forward Operating Base Reagan. We will officially secede when we get the chance. It's a 100% ID check. Only citizens allowed. We are occupying this occupation, and we're not fucking leaving until they leave. So we're here representing whoever's not represented here. We represent you. So if you feel like you're not represented, you are now. You're welcome to come. You have to pass a patriotism check, an intellectual check, and males only at this point. We plan on importing females later, but right now we're trying to set up a system of government, and we found through studies that males, tend to dominate government fairly well. So this is FOB Reagan. As you can see, we're in a really nice spot of the occupation. We have a lot of ground that we're going to annex. We're going to call it Gadsden 2. I would invite Brother Bush, but I don't think he'd come out. We don't really have a presidential wing yet. I happen to live in the presidential palace, which is right here, and then not minions, my co-conspirators live over there. If you're in FOB Reagan, you are in our military. However, we are all Black Ops members, so none of us are in the military.
I am overwhelmed by the snarkiness. Thank you. Thank you so much for the exclusive on this. But Matt, all right.
No one even knows. Jay doesn't even know about this shit yet.
You haven't made your presence known to the rest of the occupation?
We were trying to, as an autonomous region, we wanted to establish boundaries and territory, so then, like Kosovo, we could claim it's ours. But we felt we couldn't do that until we put up some semblance of a border with proper signage. But now that we have the signage, we're going active. And we are recruiting. White males welcome. Everyone else, get in line. That's how we do it here in the occupation.
I'm token, so one half black, half Jew is enough.
There
might be something under one.
Sorry, I need a second. Mic check.
Well, this is fun.
All damn day, dog, on the camera.
My definition.
So, are you guys ashamed to be filmed, or you don't want there to be a public record of what's being?
Personally, I think you're kind of a dick, but that does not make it right to block your freedom of filming. And after heavy discussion with a lot of people, I do see the error of my ways. That does not change your personal demeanor, which I still kind of fucking dislike, but I do see that it was inappropriate to block the camera now. And so, my bad.
That's really big of you. I appreciate that.
It's just the truth. It's the truth. It's not big of anybody, but you're so right. The fucking cops do it. Why would I do it?
It's admirable, but
it's fucking hard to say, dude, because really, I even looked up what you believe in. I agree with you a lot, but I gotta be a dick, dude.
Well, okay. How do you think? Hold on. Why do you keep backing up? Now that we're actually having a conversation, I'm asking you questions. You keep backing up from me.
It's because you got that personality, dude. You're all into this shit, trying to catch people in mistakes and then put it online, which I understand is hilarious. Again, when I looked you up, I was like, oh, great. I pissed off a guy that I probably agree with. Awesome. But at the end of the day, dude, personal demeanor does affect your position a lot. I know right now you got a lot of fans and a lot of people behind you, but certain representatives and people aren't going to live forever, and when they die, who's going to carry on the name?
We all are, but you would rather make fun of us than actually have us welcome here?
What are you talking about? I mean, we may represent libertarians if you guys can get on board with the Republican Party a little bit, but we represent everyone that's not represented, not just you guys. Your camera is powerful because you give people a chance to voice their opinion, and I think that's awesome that you, like the clip that I so wonderfully was a part of, the whole thing was there. You could have edited that down to make me look even dumber. I really appreciate you not. That context, that was what opened the door to me realizing that I'd made a mistake. If someone is doing something dishonest, they don't want it to be filmed. If no one has any regrets about what they do and they don't feel bad about what they do, why would they worry about being filmed?
You want to criticize me for being a dick, for being passionate?
I'm just making a point. As a dickhead, I feel I have every right to notice my own.
Takes one to know one.
Absolutely. I'm not trying to portray myself as some fucking grab-assy oh hey, we're all friends. No, I'm an asshole. I hate a lot of stuff, and I'm mean to a lot of people a lot of times without a good reason.
Okay, so then perhaps your distaste for my dickishness has more to do with some fundamental political disagreements we could actually have a conversation about.
I do feel like you guys dropped the ball on the Tea Party thing, and I think you got to answer for that because those idiots.
Wait, you mean us? Wait, you mean us libertarians dropped the ball on the Tea Party?
I do feel like the original intent behind the Tea Party was awesome. This idea of saying, you know what, we're done with this establishment bullshit.
You can't preserve a movement that doesn't have a specific demand or a specific focal point with, and keep it open source without running that risk. I mean, how would you say that the occupation movement is in any way going to prevent a liberal establishment takeover the exact same way?
Okay, 2 points. Number one, the Democratic Party, DNC, is already working to co-opt this movement. The process is already in motion for the takeover. Obviously, it was the first time that idiot on the NYPD maced a few people standing around. There were Democrat Party people watching TV going like, this is good. This is good stuff. We're going to do it. So we know what we're going up against on that front. How we prevent that? There's going to be a hefty dose of luck. I think people staying true to their ideals, maintaining this movement as apolitical at this time, staying apolitical, and saying no to the offered hand of establishment, no matter how attractive it is. Because winter is coming, and when it gets here, all the people that don't believe, they're going the fuck home. I wasn't even thinking of you when I did this. I've always wanted to be part of an autonomous region. That's literally a childhood dream. I know that sounds crazy, but I think autonomous regions are the shit because it's kind of like, fuck the rules, we're just going to draw a line and make our own rules in there. Do you realize that fundamentally the government is inextricably intertwined with the economy, and it's always been that way?
It doesn't have to be.
What basis do you have for saying that, or what historical example or even ideal example could you bring up?
Well, that's kind of
in the lab of the world that's worked.
That's a good point, but it's kind of a fallacious argument because because when there was slavery, people said, but if you don't have slaves, who will pick the cotton? And what you're basically saying is the equivalent argument. Without the government imposing a system on people, on the economy, how could we have a functioning economy? And I'm saying let's try doing it without that violation of basic human rights.
What I'm talking about is the people that try to maintain that you can have a government and then have a separate economy. The idea is fundamentally flawed because historically, like anthropologically, the whole reason government rose up was because of economy, because people had raw materials and because people had representative materials that they could exchange for those raw materials.
But that was free exchange that happened without government. Government only came up
with a club and a lot of violence. You have to admit,
and we're
involved in economics means a lot less bloodshed in a given area.
Well, no, it always means more because it's more initiation of force by definition. Don't you think that we should find a way to achieve the goals that people here are talking about in society without using government, without the initiation of force? Don't you think we can think past this old paradigm of voting or creating a system to impose on others? Can't we let people rule themselves?
You should be camping here, dude. Like a lot of your argument is represented here. And that's why we use consensus process instead of voting. We've straw polled like twice, but honestly, what you're talking about sounds like more of a regional consensus idea instead of having representational government from somewhere else dictate what you do in your everyday life.
Well, it's complete consensus in the sense that you never have the right to bring anybody else in or out of a system without their consent. In a sense, in a free market, a corporation is a consensus of people coming together with the economic resources that they own by virtue of legitimate ownership, not by theft through corporatism, but by legitimate ownership. A corporation is people coming together by consensus saying, we are going to create something that we think is going to be of value that we can exchange with other people. You don't need the government for that. Don't you think we can get away from that? See, that's the fundamental concept of libertarianism, that all human interactions should be voluntary, that you can find ways to get along, to peaceably interchange.
Don't though. Exactly. What about the neo-Nazis? What about those people?
Don't trade with them.
So what though? What happens when they got guns and ammo? What happens when they have raw materials?
Do you believe in? Well, I support the right to self-defense.
I absolutely do too. But when you have the right to self-defense, when it goes community versus community, you could call it whatever you want, but that's a tactical situation that I know as a battle.
Yeah, but communities don't naturally fight each other without governments coming in and saying, we are rich men making poor men fight in our wars. So hold on, when you have Yeah, but
communities are set up because they would fight each other if there weren't police.
no, because it's not in their best interest to fight each other. It's in their best interest to maintain peaceful cooperations and trade with each other. And that's what educating people.
No, that's the same ideology that you just said is the ideology of a government.
No, that's without government.
It's this idea that we're going to take a region of disparate people, communities, and groups. We're going to put them under one body of legislation in an effort to have peaceful interchange between the groups. That is very basic.
I'm not advocating, but I'm not advocating legislation. I'm saying that people will. The natural state of human interaction is peaceful. The natural it is force and violence that is unnatural. But we can even though that's not perfect and there are aberrations in that, what we can do is we can deinstitutionalize them, take all of those things away from government, and invest them back in the people by asserting people's right to protect themselves, to engage in a free economy, and to own property without government interfering. Don't you think that's a better vision for the future than having an economy that's managed or regulated somehow by a central authority?
I gotta go with my friend who you spoke to earlier here. I'll go a little farther because I am philosophical. That sounds fucking amazing. How realistic is it? I don't feel it's very realistic.
That's what people said about slavery. We can't end slavery. It's not realistic.
A group of people said about slavery.
No, because it was the dominant paradigm.
And illiteracy was fucking rampant too, okay?
Well, economic illiteracy seems pretty rampant these days.
Absolutely. I'm one of those people, okay? I'm not very good economically. I don't know about a lot of my rights, restrictions, and privileges, economically speaking. Why is taxes not a class in high school? Why are you not taught how to do your taxes in 9th grade? I mean,
Because we've let the government take over education.
there is some, well, there's a lot of suppression of good knowledge being disseminated through the education system. Does that mean we need to throw out a federally mandated education system, in my opinion? No, because those homies teaching creationism next to evolution, honestly, I'm glad that they stood up and made a choice for themselves, but they can't say that's couched in science. That's couched in opinion. And
Wouldn't you rather education be determined by the needs of the consumers rather than the needs of the government to propagandize its people?
not if those consumers are going to try to say that women can't vote and their place is in the home and that children are not people until they get to a certain age. And I'm not saying there's anyone that would do that, but if you've traveled this country, there are communities that if left to their own devices, their schooling would be 50% Bible, 50% maybe some other stuff.
Okay, so here's the
I agree with that personally.
Okay, fine. Here's the fundamental philosophical question in regards to what you see as those people. Should we let them come to their own conclusions and pursue them that our way is superior, or should we have a government instituted to force whatever our vision for education should be on them?
The former. Hands down, the way I feel, the former. I would so much rather discourse than a dude with a badge, a baton, and a shotgun tell you what to do.
Then you're a libertarian.
All hail the libertarian hypnotoad then, dude, because I'm on board. We win.